Live on Instagram, going live on Facebook right now, and YouTube and all that good stuff. All right, guys, like and share this feed. It's Boss Talk Wednesday. Going live with my girl Natalie Lee Martin, the Clarity Coach, coming through here. So we're live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. All right, so you
Hey,
coming
hey,
in?
hey, hey, we
All
in the
right,
building.
there we go, guys. So live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, guys. Like and share this feed. It's another week of Boss Talk, Boss Up Talk, Wednesday, week number 49. So that's like almost a year we've been doing this podcast. And
Oh,
let me get my headset together.
let me fix this. Okay, here we go. Now my Instagram is kind of like lagging. What is the deal?
It's it's me because I have my headset doing some weird stuff.
Okay, here we go. We here. We in the building. Let's go.
All right, guys. Like you should speak, guys. We're
Yes,
live
yes,
on
yes.
the Super Dope Week, and we are talking about what about your friends, right? So think about the song from the '90s. What about your friends? Like from the early '90s, well, late '90s, early '90s with TLC. And that topic is so dope as an entrepreneur because what about your friends? And in conclusion to that part, well, in addition rather to that part, is a lot of times, I've been told. One of my, I wouldn't say mentors, but one of my former friends would say it's so lonely at the top. And I've heard that a lot in conversations about being lonely at the top. And I feel like in entrepreneurship, that doesn't always have to be the case. Yes, things can be very, very triggering or trying in business. But I think the best thing I love about my business and my friend circle is we're really, really a lot of times going through the same things at the same time, right? And the beautiful part about when you create the circle or when you're invited to the right circle of friends, it's so amazing to see how when you guys come together and iron sharpens iron, you start to realize that, hey, I'm not in it by myself. I have some really dope, amazing friends who are feeling the same way I'm feeling, sometimes at the same exact time. But when you guys come together, you start building like a force field. So when chaos does come, you can kind of vent to your friend, but we can also, by the end of the conversation, which we talked about last week, was monitor your conversations. We could also create a plan of action because as a unit, we're able to really sharpen each other up, give each other feedback, which Natalie and I do all the time. When it comes to giving each other feedback, we are really, really big on encouraging each other, also providing feedback and correction in a loving way. And we pivot together. So when you think about, what about your friends? Who is in your circle? Who's like your go-to people for what you need, or who are you a go-to person for?
I am so excited about this topic. When I saw it, when you sent it over, I was singing the same song, like, what about them? Okay. All right. Sometimes for me, it was like a transition and some at some point it became a hard transition. So me and my girls, we were always like from jump, like, okay, we have these great big ideas. We want to, move forward and do all these great things. And so we were kind of, moving forward in entrepreneurship in that manner. And it gets hard at some point. It does get difficult. And sometimes when you don't know a lot, like when your circle doesn't know a lot, you have to step outside of your circle to find another circle of people that know more than you. So there came a point with the entrepreneurship and my friends where I was like, y'all, I don't like the stagnation that I'm feeling. I don't like what's going on. I'm gonna have to leave y'all for a minute and go find some other, people that know more. I didn't say it like that. I was just like, I don't like what's going on. I can't do this no more. I got to go. And so I wish I was a little bit more mature back then, but I wasn't. I just didn't know any better. I just knew I had to find other people, entrepreneurs that were on a different level than I was to be connected to because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I had to shift my friend circle for a while in order to receive the information that I did not know that I needed, and then kind of come back and bring that information to my circle. So for me, the friendship, it was good when all of us were running at the same pace. But when you or another person starts to outpace you, you have to really readjust and realign your vision and the things that you can do in order to move forward in where you want to go. Because
Mm,
sometimes you can be running ahead of people and it feels like your friend circle is pulling you back instead of helping you move forward. And so, no matter where you find yourself in, I would suggest personally not having only one set of friends. It's
that's
good to
good.
have multiple circles where you can gather information here or encouragement here or correction here. You might not be able to get all of it in, one circle. You might have to move throughout different arenas and spaces so that you can receive all that you need. Because building a business, it's like a baby. It requires a whole lot of
Yes.
everything. And you need multiple godmothers, okay? So I love this conversation. This is about to be real good.
I think that's so dope what you said about that part about having multiple friends, right?
Hmm.
Um, there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about how when you enter the presence of God, there's three different levels. You have the outer court, the inner court, and the holies of holies. And I think the biggest part about that, and we spoke about this several times in this podcast, over the almost year we've been doing this for episode 49. Um, but what happens is sometimes when it comes to our friends and family, we don't categorize them by where they belong. There are some things that we share with family members and friends that should not be shared, or they may need a certain version of the sharing process because they're not really able to handle who you are as a person or what is just being talked about. So, for example, I have a group of friends who translate different topics, but they're not for every topic. I have Natalie is a great friend to talk about business with. She's also a good person to talk about family life with because she's experienced family different what I have because she's a parent and she's a wife. And if I'm looking for that type of conversation, I can go to her about that. On the flip side, she might not be able to talk to me about that because I'm not a parent, and we could talk about it in a way of teaching. We could talk out a way of if she needs advice about a man, like we could talk about that, but we may not be able to talk about advice from me from a marriage because I'm not married, right? So when you start thinking about stuff like that, you want to really think about when I'm bringing a conversation to one of my friends, are they even able to handle this type of conversation? Are they able to really process what I'm saying to them and really give me the feedback that I need? Now, sometimes you got to try it out because you'll be surprised. Some people give some amazing advice based off their success and their failure. Because some people won't talk to people like, well, you ain't been through nothing, so I can't talk to you about that. But no, they may know the failure side of it, so they can give you a great point of view on that part, right? So when it comes to really categorizing your friendship circles, you want to be really clear about, am I okay to share this with this type of friend? Because every friend is not the same friend, right? But so oftentimes we get caught feeling like, well, they my friend, they should just understand me. Or this is my friend, my day one ace. But that doesn't mean that they're privy to certain conversations, right? And when you're really trying to pivot to go different areas of your life, you have to be so careful with who get insight to this version of you because we all are different versions. When I was a kid, I did this program called 15 Together with Reverend McDonald. He's like the super dope businessman. He's a pastor, but he's a really dope businessman. And he talked about the scripture where, remember when Jesus was casting out the legions into the pig? And he said, for what's your name? And he said, my name is Legion, for I am many, right? So this is one person, but was occupied by so many different personalities and spirits. But we're the same way. Like there's Natalie, the coach, Natalie, the mom, Natalie, the part-time chef, because she be chefing up for all them kids. Natalie, the business. So it's different forms of her. There's different forms of me. So based on who you may encounter at what event, you may get a different version of me. So what that means is when you have be in different spaces and you're encountering different versions of you, everybody's not privy to that part. Everybody's not able to handle that version of you. The home you may be silly, but in the world they may see you as somebody who's not really silly. They seem strict because that's the version they need. So when you think about the conversations you put on for people and you think about your friendship circles, you want to be mindful of who you're entertaining. Are they able to handle the side of you? Because you want to make sure you're able to really give the right energy and receive the right energy at that moment from those people. I think you're on mute here, Natalie.
I'm glad I was on mute because now Sadie want to act up and barking. Oh my gosh, I can't when they do this.
See, Sadie doesn't like the business coach side of you for the podcast. That's what it is.
Like Sadie, chill out. But I love that you said matching the energy, and that really tied into what I was thinking about because at one point in my when I was processing and growing and becoming, God challenged me to become a friend that I wanted because there are,
Mm,
like you said, it's lonely at the top. And there were times where God was calling me to pull away and to
mm,
do things. And I got upset because he didn't tell my friend to do that. So the people that
mm,
I'm closest to are not, I don't want to say keeping pace, but then they're not required to do the same thing that I was required to do. And I got angry, like, how come you can't see it the way that I'm seeing it? I'm fasting for 30 days and I'm sharing this with you. How come you're not doing it? I want an accountability partner. And God was telling me, like, girl, you need to chill out. Like, listen, it like relax. Like, this is what I'm calling you to. But what I didn't realize is that he was asking me to become the thing that I desired. So I
wow.
desired accountability, but I couldn't be accountable to myself. So the
Mm,
first step, y'all, and I say this all the time, is you have to eat first before you can give to other people. God was requiring me to be a friend to myself first
mm,
before I could show up as a friend to other people. Because like I said, I ditched the friend group and was like, y'all too slow. I got to go find other people that I can run with. And it was not cool. Thank God my friends are just the most loving people in the world. And they know that Natalie crazy, but she gonna come back. You know what I mean? Like she and I'm that type of chick that like I'm gonna hold you down. So if I go for a little bit and come back, I'm coming back with a whole lot of spoils. We all gonna eat. And I say it all the time. I'll see you at the top because we're all going to the top. But I had to really dig in and really figure out what it is that I wanted to be, and what as a friend, who I needed as a friend, and then I
mm.
had to reflect that in my actions, not just speaking, oh, I want you to show up for me like this. How am I showing up in a certain situation?
That part.
They were able to match my energy because I wasn't requiring them to give me something that I wasn't able to give back. So even in seasons now where I had to tell my friend the other day, like, hey, I'm building the business. I'm not going to be able to talk to you as much. I have to pull away right now because the business side of me is requiring much more. And I've invested time into this friendship for years. You can
Mm.
give me, like, she understood that I just needed some space to invest in the business at this point. And when it gets to a certain place where it's able to sustain itself a little bit more, then I can start coming back. But there was a time that I was just like, I wasn't talking to my friends like that.
That's so good you say that part because I'm usually the first out of all my friends to do something, right? But you made a good point about eating first, right? There's so many times we keep pouring into everybody else's cup, but eventually we're empty because we never been back to the filling station ourselves. So sometimes I realize certain journeys are alone where even Jesus had alone moments, right? He said, let me go up and pray. I'll come check back on y'all, right? Because sometimes everybody's not meant to really, not say that I'm meant to enter that level, but at that moment, there are things that God is working on them that may be on a different level than you, right? So what you start to notice is that with your friend groups is you have to give people grace, right? Perfect example is the relationship with my father, right? So my dad was not involved in my life until probably when I was like, I think when I went to college, like my third year of college, we started to develop a relationship. And now for my life, I didn't realize the effect of not having a father around because I had so many male figures, but nobody can be your father. Nobody can be your mother, right? So what happened was we got the chance to really know each other. I realized that I would kind of give him the cold shoulder sometime, right? Or I would give him a certain energy that honestly, it's not that he didn't deserve it, but I was wasting energy because little did I know my dad was going to die. Maybe if I graduated in 2012, we started being cool like 2010, 2011. He died in 2014, right? So little did I know I only had 3 years, right, to really establish this relationship and learn what I could have got until one day um, My grandmother got sick, so we drove her down south and was at my uncle's house in Atlanta. He was in South Carolina, and this is like during Sandy, so I was there for like maybe a month. And he was saying, "Hey, you gonna stop by? You gonna stop by?" And it got annoying to me because I'm like, "Dude, you was around the corner from me all my life, and you now want me to drive to your area." So once again, I'm in a certain phase because remember, it's different sides of you. So I'm in a phase where I feel hurt as a young person, not having a father around. And he was like, so when do you come see me? I said, I'm with my family, bro. And he said, but I am your family. And I never thought about that part because I was so like in a state of where I was dealing with a lot of hurt, a lot of just by not having that father figure of him. But then, God had to deal with me and he said, hey, my uncle spoke to me first. He said, Josh, you got to really get to know your dad because you want to know what good and bad qualities you get. My uncle forgot about this whole conversation. He brought it to me actually like a month ago when he was up here in Jersey. And what made me really think about it, God had to deal with me and said, you need to give people grace. You need to give people grace for areas that they haven't been strong in. My dad was on drugs since he was a teenager. So by the time I was born, he was like 30, 31. How can I expect somebody who spent like 15 years of his life with a controlled substance to really give me the leadership that I needed? And I think sometimes translating that back to friendships, we put pressure on people that honestly don't deserve to have that type of pressure put on them because they're still human beings. People have their own lives. And sometimes we expect our family to support our business, our mom to be there, our dad to be there. But you know what? Stop relying on people who have their own lives. Like even though it just feel like they should be there, but sometimes what if that's God saying, hey, I want to be that role because he does say in the scripture, I'll never leave you or forsake you. I will be your mother. I will be your father. Right. So I always thought about that scripture. My mom told me that scripture, and I started thinking about that. I'm like, yo, the reason why sometimes our friend circles can't really be that perfect, they don't have the capacity. I love that in the comments, but it's true. We don't give people grace for the capacity that they don't have. And the longer you keep putting pressure on people who don't have the capacity for that version of you or what you need in that moment, you will start to burdening people and being mad and creating unforgiveness in your life. And you wonder why things aren't working is because you're mad at the wrong people. Sometimes you're mad at people to fill the void that you're not getting your own relationship with God to really focus on that area. There are certain areas by me being mad at my dad for so long, I wasn't able to get healing and development. So now that I've got that healing from, the lack of my dad for the time that he wasn't around, as I got older, now I'm able to like to speak to other young guys who deal with the issue with their father, like who was their example, your father, who was his example. And when you realize that a lot of times the people who put these pressure on have never been successful in the area that we're trying to really put that pressure to receive from them on. So yes, that was kind of like a really thing I had to really develop it and grow grace. And God had to give me a lot of grace and show me how to really give grace.
That is so good. That is so good. And I love that the angelic life said they don't have the capacity,
Mm-hmm.
and we're putting stuff on them that they have not matured into just yet. And then melodic senses is just like when moms feel left with the child, but they're actually blessed with that child.
Oh yeah.
Ma'am, listen, she getting right into the conversation where you have to now shift your perspective on things.
Mm,
You can't always, what you see isn't always what you see. And you have to pull yourself back from the situation to see something different. For me,
mm,
I was so comfortable in my little bubble because all that I thought I needed and wanted was in that bubble. We did things together. We fasted together. We grew together. We were praying together all the time. But God says there's now a time where that, well, I need you to come outside of that bubble and
mm,
reach out to other people because your business can't be just limited to those three people. You're going to need help from people that they don't have the capacity to do. They don't know stuff about business. They haven't been in certain places. So now I need you to come out of it. And really and truly, if I didn't get sick and tired of being in the situation, I would have still been where I was before. And there was
that's
no
good.
growth in certain areas. In certain areas and in certain circles, certain friendships, and just to be honest and realistic, there was no growth in a particular area that God was saying, all right, now I need you to move. Now I need you to grow in this area, and you can't have it here. And we think that we can get all of it in one particular place. Or like us, we think, oh, I if I have my spouse and me, I'm good. Me and my girlfriend against the world, and I don't need nobody else. But that's not true. God,
Mm.
and the way business is set up, we're meant to do it in community. This is why you see the Neos and you see the ETs, and they have a team of people that they are walking with and moving and doing life with. One person is the financial person, one person is the tech person, one person is there are different aspects of them, but they're growing in wealth together. And I
Yeah.
had to really shift my mind and say, this circle is way too small. Not just the number of people, but the mindset was way too small, and I had to extend it. I had to reach out, extend my borders. And we're talking about, Bible and how Jesus did things. He was with the 12 for 3 years, but after a certain time, he said, all right, it's enough of just us. Now we need to extend this thing. Now we need
That's
to
good.
extend this thing. And
That's
now we need
good.
to go globally. It couldn't just be contained in Israel. It got to the point that Paul had to rebuke Peter and say, you know what? We got to go to the Gentiles. You're over here just talking to the Jews. What about the rest of the world? So it can't just stay just us, especially if we're going to make the kind of impact that we're called to. I know I am a multi-billion-dollar business owner. Josh knows he's a multi-billion-dollar business owner. Are we going to make the billions off of our mama and our brothers and our sister? No.
Hell
No,
no.
so now I have to extend my borders, and I can't make it up with my friends, and I can't make it
Mm.
up with my current clients. The borders have to be extended, and you have to make a decision to move beyond what you know right now. So what about your friends? Your friends are so important, but they're not limited to the ones that you know now. I have friends that are waiting for me in the future. I have friends that I have yet to meet in 2050. But I had to change the mindset of what a friend is. And a friend isn't somebody that I grew up with. A friend isn't somebody that, we have stuff in common, or we look the same. It moves so much more beyond that. And for me, friends are now people that want to advance the vision that God gave me to expand the kingdom. And how does that look? It looks like moving in the marketplace right now. It looks like business right now. But can God change it? He sure can. I was a teacher for 20 years. Now I'm not. So, I'm still a teacher, but I ain't in the classroom. So.
But it's funny you say that too, because all right, Halima just came on live, and Halima, know I always got a brand new friend, right? So for me, is I'm a people person, right? Even though I want to be, I'm meeting people, but the beautiful part, Halima is too. So when we go to different events, we always meet new people. But I think the good part about that is, so oftentimes we get so stuck with our friend group, and we define, and this is a big church word. We think that our friends have to be loyal, right? And the word loyal is such a very a misrepresented word in how we use the word loyal, right? We want our friends to be loyal to us, or some people will say that like you can't have other friends, and it's like so weird because it's just like I'm a gift. I'm meant to be, given to the world because that's what a gift is. A gift is given. And when you start really moving differently as if you're a gift, you start to see things differently, right? Like I feel as though the reason why it's so good to really also be open to developing new friendships, new partnerships, is because you don't know who somebody else knows or what they're meant to give to you, right? I love that when I get to go in new circles and I get to really and I'm big on doing an event with somebody. Hey, you got this gift, I got this gift. Let's do an event together. It is no harm in doing one event, right? Because you start to realize that maybe this person's not really meant to be a friend, or hey, they're gifted in this area. Maybe we can work together here. So when you come together and start partnerships, you don't know who's going to come to an event, who's going to really kind of lead you to the way. You don't know who you're designed to help out, right? But I think too, we have to really monitor those partnerships, and we have to get to the point where we're really thinking about, okay, cool. What do I have to give to this person, and what do I get from this person? It is not saying that it has to be. No, it does. It has to be reciprocity, because there's so often times, because we're givers, we'll automatically, oh, I can help you out with this, which is great. But also, you have to also learn how to put a demand on your harvest. We talked a few weeks about the act, right? There's sometimes when we have certain friends or we get to different circles, we don't put an axe on our new circle, our current circle. And sometimes you get really offended by your friends or people you do work for. And it's like, but you never put out an axe. So they don't even know what you need. They don't know what you even desire because you haven't made it plain. There are some friends who are in your life right now who are really meant to take you to the next level, but you have not really learned how to create an axe of them. So for me, I'm a person where once I see somebody not really rocking hard, I'm like, I'll just do it myself. And I really have to change that because you'll never get people to really flourish in an area if you always saying, "Oh, I got it. Don't worry about it. I'll do it myself." And I'm big for that. Once I see you moving sideways, fam, it's a wrap because I can allow somebody to bring me down, but sometimes it goes back to giving people grace, right? Let me give you grace to at least let me see you like jump into the area and really let me see how you move. Let me see how you flow because sometimes if you keep jumping doing everything, you get burnt out. And when you get burnt out, you know good to nobody because you keep pouring out the same old you, and maybe the same old you wasn't required for the different new season. The same old you keep coming up to the same situation, and what happens, the reason why you're not really meant to just jump in that area because you have not taken time to really sit and rest, right? There's certain things that Natalie is excellent at. There's certain things that Halima is excellent at. There's certain things, my friend Alec, everybody has their own gifting, right? And sometimes you have to give people grace to flourish, where stop trying to have a takeover spirit. Because I'm the reason why sometimes with me, I know I'm gonna do it right, but sometimes guys like let people get an opportunity to really grow in that friendship role with you. Because if you keep jumping and rising to the occasion every time, that means that they won't get the opportunity to really grow. Like even when it comes to like me in class with my students, I can't always shadow them. If I keep doing everything for them, when will they get the opportunity to be successful in that area? And sometimes you're placed in your friend's life not to do everything for them, but just lead the way and allow them to start creating. You might just be the person they got to watch, or vice versa. They may be the people that you watch. So when you start thinking about that, when it comes to your friendships, what kind of example are you being for your friends, right? And even too, do you have friends who are great examples for you? Every friend I have in my life, and I mean my friend, not somebody that's an acquaintance, every friend in my life I can learn from and I learn from them. I look at these things and I'm like, okay, guys, so what do you have me in this relationship for? What do you want me to learn? What do you want me to develop? What areas do you need me to kind of just watch? Because the more you start to do that part, you start to really self-reflect on how am I going to be a better me? Because sometimes it's just a test for you to just really see, are you going to be that friend that shows up, or are you that friend that shows up? And a lot of times, a lot of us aren't the friends that we want to be. Like Natalie said, the being alive is she had to become what she wanted to see from other friends. She had to be the accountability partner to other friends for her to receive that back. Are you putting a demand on yourself to be the person that you want from somebody else?
Come on with the mic drop. Are you putting a demand on yourself to become what you're expecting other people to be? My gosh. And that's how you become very credible. And this is how people love to show up for you, because you put a demand on yourself. You have to put the demand on yourself first. That's how people know not to play with your time. We talk about boundaries all the time, but people don't respect boundaries that you don't have. And they see your boundaries by how you treat yourself and how you treat your time. The reason why Josh says that you can't call Natalie after a certain time, because when he calls, I don't answer. So that's how the boundary gets put in place. It's not that I had to sit and say, Josh, you're not supposed to call me. And then I'll pick up and be like, Josh, why are you calling me? And then I'll pick up, Josh be like, but you picking up. So obviously you're available that time. So you complaining about your availability doesn't do anything for me if you picking up. Sometimes we just need to be that thing instead of complaining about the thing that we're desiring. I desire, and I'm just using something simple. Josh don't do this, but if I'm desiring my time and Josh calls and I pick up and complain, that's really not who I am. I'm somebody that's going to pick up and I just like to complain. That's what the other person is seeing on the other end. But when we start to hold the boundary line, when we start to move in the manner of, this is what I require from a friend because this is how I show show up in the space, then they automatically know I can test other people, but I can't do it with her because she's not going to entertain that. And for a long time, I'll be honest, I entertained certain things with friend groups. I entertained certain things with people. I did not speak up when I should have. I didn't express who I really was. I shrunk back when I was supposed to show up, or I showed out when I was supposed to be quiet, and I didn't operate in myself. But once I understood me, like I told a friend the other day, I saw me before you saw me. I saw myself before you saw me, because if you see me before I see me, whatever you say about me, I'm trying to live up to that standard. And we do that with our friends, especially when you prophetic, especially when you have clarity on stuff. You like to put your own vision on people. You like to put your own expectations on people. And I did this for such a long time. And it's only this year that I'm learning how to let people be them. Be quiet, Natalie, and let people show you who they are and accept what they speak about themselves. But you show up as yourself. You don't have to pivot around other people. You just have to be, and those people and those friends who are meant to be in your circle will be attracted to you. And those that can't keep pace will quickly find out, I can't hang with Natalie. I can't roll with her. I have to go with somebody else, because the way this chick is running, I can't run with her. Chef J and I, the reason that we can do this podcast for 49 weeks, missed
Come on, 49.
49 weeks. We missed 1 week, and that was because of me, because I gotta be the anomaly.
I'm glad you're honest about that. That's why I love. She's the honest friend that's honest about her transgressions and her.
It was up to Josh. We be here every single Wednesday. And I was like, man, I'm not answering the phone. I can't do it today. But when I saw his standard, I said, Natalie, you have to make some adjustments. Hear what I said. I saw Chef J's standard. And I said, if I want to consistently run with Chef J and be on this podcast and allow my voice to be heard, I have to do some shifting. It wasn't him. It was Natalie. I had to rearrange my schedule. I had to get the mindset, yo, this dude is serious about this thing, and I got to show up every single week. And we did. The only reason we could do that is because Natalie decided Chef J is running at a pace that I want to consistently stay with, so I got to keep up. I got to adjust. I got to make that move. And sometimes we're in circles with other people, and we keep saying it's their fault, but we never made the adjustment. And sometimes we're in circles where we know they too slow, and we don't have the courage to say, I gotta go right now. I'll be right back, and I'll bring you all the spoils, but I can't stay here because this pace is not the pace that I need to run to get to where I'm going. And I love, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, I love what you said about your dad, that you had a limited window to spend time with your father, and that you had to really readjust your mindset on what family really was in order to have that time. A lot of us don't realize there is a limited window to what God is trying to get us to prepare for. There's a limited window for us to get our business together, to get the purpose of what he's calling us to do, to get clarity. There is a limited window, because I'm telling you, y'all, we're not going to be here next year. Y'all not going to be able to come like this next year, because the way that Chef J and I are operating in this season, next year is going to be a totally different way. Like you may not be able to get access to us next year. So while you have the opportunity, get into it, because next year might be a whole different story. And Zoom, I've been talking about Zoom all day, all week, all month, all this year. Zoom, they were operating and working on, they started in 2011. And there were so many things that were going on with the business. They were working out the kinks. There was a point in Zoom's history that it could only hold 10 businesses at a time. Only 10. Can you imagine now only 10 people being on Zoom? Zoom holds millions and millions of people at one time, but their network was not strong enough. It had not been structured enough to hold more than 10 people. So the CEO just kept going in and recalibrating and retweaking and rebuilding and adding people to the vision and doing all the work, that by time COVID hit, Zoom now becomes the number one way which people communicate. And even after COVID, people are still on Zoom. Where it used to be the majority of people did the 40-minute free Zoom session. Now it has shifted where the majority of people are doing those paid sessions and those pros. I even saw the other day, you can no longer just record and save all your recordings on Zoom. Once it hits above 5 megabytes or gigabytes or whatever, they're like, I'm shutting down your cloud recording because you can't host all this stuff. You got to pay for extra. So they were working on their systems and their structures that entire
That's
time
good.
between 2011 and 2020. So by the time COVID hit, there were some things that they could do. And now they can raise their prices. They can charge more. They're now an elite company. This is what God is telling us to do in this season. Prepare well. Get the clarity and of purpose. That's why we're together. Get the
Good.
clarity of your purpose so that when another thing comes, you're already structured.
You're ready.
Millionaires were made in COVID, and businesses died in COVID. Which one are you going to be?
Oh, that was good. You out here talking
Sorry,
it up,
but
right?
I mean,
So
it went to
you know what
friends.
I love about what you, but here's the thing about that too is why do we expect our friends to stay the same? Why do we expect family to stay the same? And sometimes that could be a good or bad thing, right? When you think about it, like if you go back to middle school and high school, you don't have the same friends. You go to college, you see that your friendship changes. And some people are like, oh, why are they acting funny? No, they're just pivoting and growing, right? So as my friend, I can't expect this person to not evolve. And so oftentimes we expect people to stay the same in our life when sometimes in that season they may not be able to be that, but I have to give them grace to grow. you know, um, for example, there's just thinking about Natalie and I, like this whole year, I've known Natalie for 20 years. No, 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 no. I've known you for 23 years. 23. 23. I've known Natalie for 23 years, right? I met Natalie when I was 10 years old, right? I got the gray hair, so I look a little older, but Natalie's like 10 years older than me, right? But here's the beautiful part about our friendship. When I first met Natalie, she just started teaching. She had no car. She was driving the bus. We developed such a relationship that when we first met, we were really learning the things of God. We were learning about faith. We were learning about manifestation. We were learning about friendship. We learned about different things, right? But now when I look at Natalie and I 10, no, 23 years later, it's just crazy to see just how dope she is. I've already seen it, but now to see Natalie operating who she is just like crazy because something we talked about 23 years ago, not only did we manifest it, we're on such a whole different playing field, right? There's certain times where when friendships come to place, like for me, I don't like friends that leave me behind because I'm always gonna be with them. That's my vibe. Like, yo, my friend ain't gonna leave me behind. And, when Halima first got me on cryptocurrency, she was taking that move. I said, okay, no, I gotta see what's up because the thing about it is when it comes to your friends are meant to be accountability partner in a lot of different areas, but sometimes we don't see your friend um we don't see our friends as the greatness of who they are sometimes because we get so complacent with who they are. Oh, that's just Josh. That's just Natalie, right? That sometimes, like, it's a good example is one of my sisters. She works at the post office, right? When I first started selling dinners, I would sell food to them like maybe like 10 years ago, right? So now these same people, it's a new staff that works there, but she's like a supervisor there. And I'm like, oh my God, we went to the chef spot. Oh, it's so good. He's like, what's the chef name? Oh, Chef J. And so it's funny because she was like, oh, I remember when this, and she really was very active in my business. But it's so crazy how my sister has seen me evolve into somebody who made a lopsided cake to really doing these dinner parties. And when it comes to your friendships, a lot of times you want to make sure you're on the ground floor and you're growing with them, right? There's sometimes when some friends may not pivot with you, but I'm the friend. I want to pivot with my friends. So that means that I don't want none of my friends to leave me behind, right? So I see them elevating that area. I remember the first time Natalie, she released, at least on your second book, right? Natalie, I'm like, yo, Natalie, okay, how do I write the book? How do I do this? How do I do that? Right? Natalie was so resourceful with the information that now I got to finish it. But I started doing the process. I started writing. I got 4 chapters done. I started doing my recipes for the cookbook part because I didn't want to be left. especially 2020. I'm not gonna be left in 2023 not being an author. My friend is a bestseller, so that's the part right there. So I'm like, Jay, let me get that stamina up. So some friends that you're around are really meant to grow with you and to challenge you. You know, so when you look at some of your friends, are you being the friend that challenges your friends, or are you being the friend that always has to be challenged? Are you being a friend that motivates, or are you one that always has to be motivated? It gets very annoying when you always have to motivate everybody around you. You have to come to a place where you decide to be friends with people who provide reciprocity. Where hey, sometimes this might be data my data poor. Okay, Natalie, you may got Thursday. Here you go. Now it's your turn. You have to be okay with not always just don't always take. Be the friend that will sow a seed into somebody. Be a friend that will say, if your friend say they got a need and you got the extra bread, yo, fam, I'm gonna sow this into your business, right? Nobody's gonna outsow me in my friend's business. No one's gonna outsow me in my friend's business. Or if I know I have the resource, let me just be a resource for my friends. Are you being a resource? Are you being the person who takes the resources? You want to make sure when you're in any friend circle that you provide an equal value, if not greater, because you want it to be where, remember, you're still sowing a seed. So when you provide value, you're still sowing a seed, right? So for me, I just really appreciate my friends who always just lift me up, because that's what I do. So when you have these friendships, when we talk about what about your friends, are you the friend that you want to be? Are you the friend that someone will be like, you know what? Josh is one of my greatest friends. Natalie's one of my greatest friends. When you think about that part, what is your reputation? Friendship has a big reputation. I was watching a show. I don't know if you saw Your Honor, right? Your Honor, one of the episodes, one of the friends like really stitches on his best friend. So when you think about that part, like, are you the friend when things get tough, you switch up on somebody? you know. So you really want to start to evaluate your friendship level because you just never know down the road how that starts to backfire on you. You reap what you sow. So are you sowing seeds that will be looked upon as a good friend? The thing I love about, Jesus, he was very accountable to his circle. But he also told the truth about it. But he knew that we had to uphold a certain level of greatness, right? Like Anna said earlier about, with me, like I hold a certain standard of what I want to do. I'm not always perfect with it, but my friends challenge me to be better. In this season, you have to want to be better. You have to want to grow. It's not saying being perfect. Being better and perfect is two different things. You want to create a desire for yourself that, hey, you know what? Every day I want to challenge myself to do better. In my job, like I love teaching, but I'm like, Jay, are you being the best teacher you can be? And at my school they love me, but I'm like, no, Jay, you got to be okay. So what's next? What are you going to pivot? How are you going to grow? And in the same conversations, I talk to my friends about, oh, what you doing this week to pivot and grow? Oh, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I'm working on this. I'm like, oh, I thought I was doing something big. Let me go harder because my friend is doing this. Let me celebrate them and go harder. That's the other part. Don't be jealous and envious. And even now you said something a while ago with friendships. You said about how, like a lot of times, like people would not be envious, but what happens is sometimes we look at our neighbor and we wonder why we're not really growing, or we don't want to let them grow. Let your friendships motivate you to want to be better. Let your friendships be a source of inspiration. Let's stop the word hater. Oh, this person a hater. Nobody even thinking about you, fam. Like, stop. Nobody thinking about you. Be so tough and so into your practice of excellence that you can't even see those to the left or to your right. Your left or to the right. You gotta be like that horse in that race. They put blinders on them so they can't see to the left or to their right. But if I know my friends, I only gotta look to the left or to the right because I already know my friends rocking with me. My friends going just as hard. So as we create that level of success, you start to notice, hey, you know what? Let my friendships represent me. Do your friends represent you? Because sometimes we have some garbage trash friends and we wonder why we're not growing and elevating because you're associated with people who are garbage and trash. So when it's that time and season to move to the next level, are your friends representing who you want to be? And a lot of times they not. Change your friends, change your circle, change your life.
Change your circle, change your life. I love that. I love it. I love it. Listen, I only got one thing to add to that is let man, it's everything that you just said. Allow your friends to operate in their zone of genius. Allow your friends to do what they do best and challenge them. Don't this year, I can't be around mediocre people. I can't do it. I have to be around people who demand excellence from themselves. I need that because once you demand excellence from yourself, I know how I got to show up to consistently stay in this particular circle. And so allow them the space. And, sometimes we will over talk people, or because we think, and I used to do this to my friend all the time. I thought I knew her life better than she knew her life. And I said, I had to pull back. No, I did. I'm like, I can run your life and grow. If you just listen to me, you would be so better off. But I had to pull back and allow her to make her own decision. And I found myself saying, now I trust the God in you. I trust the God in you. We serve the same God, and I trust that you will go to him and listen to him and get whatever it is that you need from him. I don't always have to show up and be everything in her life. All I got to do is give clarity, because that's where my zone of genius is. I don't have to give you advice on every single thing that's going on. All I got to do is be the clarity coach, and I'll be the clarity coach in every single person's everything. But if you're great at something else, or if your friend is great, is very creative, let her be creative. I have a friend who, when it comes to acceleration and accountability, we be getting together and I'd be like, she knows she is. I don't know if she's on the live, Cassandra. I'd be like, Cass, so what's the homework? Because I know you're going to give the homework, and I can also give us homework. But if this is your zone of genius, if this is where you operate, and every time you do this thing, we get results, why am I trying to stifle you because I want to show up kind of like you and show out and say I can do it too? I don't have to be great at everything. I just have to be great at the one thing that I do best. And then I have to surround myself by other friends that are great at what they do. Henry Ford was phenomenal at that. You think Henry Ford could build a car? No. But he knew people that was able to build certain aspects. He knew people that was good at steel. He knew people that was good at manufacturing. He knew people that was good at managing. And he put great people together in a room. Ford is one of the number one car companies in the country. Like, come on. We just got to know how to operate and how to let our friends operate in their zone of genius. And if they're showing up mediocre, they eventually will fall off, because birds of a feather flock together. They stick together. Eventually, if y'all are flying at the same pace and they can't keep up, they'll fall off. You won't even have to say a thing. And allow them the space and the room and the grace to fall off if they need to. Some people need a break. Y'all be doing the most. That's what they be telling me. Natalie, you do the most. I can't keep up with your schedule. Give them the grace to fall back and let them catch their breath. And when they ready to come back, they will. It's okay.
Yeah. And have open arms.
Yes. Don't be shady. I'll be shady sometimes. I'm working on it.
I know. That's why I was speaking to myself on that one. I was speaking to myself the most. But I think that's the biggest part, The last part, are you that judgmental friend? Like, learn how to be gracious, give advice, be gracious, and don't judge, because you don't know what that person is going through in their own life. Like Natalie said, like, you don't know. Like, I think sometimes too, we get so hooked on doing things, but you don't know what psychological thing in their mind moves differently from you.
Yeah.
Like, you may see it so easy to do, but what if this person has, like, literally a learning disability and you don't know that part?
Yeah.
Be gracious, but also learn how to be graceful, because when you show grace, God shows you how to communicate with other people, right? So it's been a dope vibe, guys. Dope conversation.
Good.
Guys, don't forget, if you're looking for coaching in the area of clarity, you want to reach out to Natalie. Do you have a replay for your thing you did in February?
No, I do not. But they can catch the course, Find Your Voice, How to Stand Out in a Saturated Market, by clicking the link in my bio.
Oh, and then the first week of April, myself, Halima, and Daria were doing a B.O.S.S boot camp. It's not real small. We're doing a workshop on how to create a lane for yourself, finding resources, and pivoting to social media. So, guys, make sure you guys have a flyer probably by tomorrow. But yeah, it's super dope, guys.
I was about to say, how they connect with you on that? Is it BossUp.today?
Oh, yeah, BossUp.today. I have the flyer on BossUp.today. Or click the link in my bio.
Okay.
But it's time to pivot. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Closed mouths don't get fed. If you are tired of being tired, it's time to connect. Let's pivot. Let's grow because you're meant to be great. You're meant to be awesome. And just know that you are so loved because when you know you're loved, you move differently. When you know you're cared for, and sometimes you are the one that loves yourself, right? So develop that certain type of interest in yourself. Trust your friends. If you don't have friends, check you and wonder why you don't have no friends because you may be the problem. All right. So guys, tune in next week, guys, to another episode of Boss Up Talks. Anything else, Natalie? Are we good to go? All right, we're logging out, fam.